everybody, and welcome to the September 20th Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, Eric Donovan.
New snazzy opening there for you. We got five more races to bring you on this week's episode of Trips and Traps. We'll start off on the turf with the 2-year-old filly race, a maiden claimer 65,000 with the tags in here, going a mile, the 13th race, number 3.
Yeah, I think what this race epitomizes something that gets even worse in the last video we show, which is I just feel like, and it's very easy to follow our horse because he's the only gray in this race, and that's the number 8 Normandy in this race in Philly. Is what's happening in so many of these turf races is one person is sort of aggressive, and that was the rider Joel Rosario on Buckingham Ball. The horse who's outside of it just sort of goes to the lead here, or inside, I should say. I'm sorry, the number 2 horse just sort of takes back there and concedes the lead. And despite there being sprinters in this race stretching out, it's an excruciatingly slow pace. And it feels like Normandy's rider, I'm sorry, Julien Leparoux, had sort of made his decision before the race started how he was going to ride.
Yeah, and not adapting to the way the race develops here at all. And from a handicapper's perspective, this is one of the more frustrating things you can run into at the track. A race where you think there's going to be a fair pace, where they're crawling along, where there was an opportunity to be a fair pace. One of the riders takes back. The 3 Buckingham Bull goes up on the lead. And, if you like the 8 here, you're on hold the whole race.
Yeah, and just so you know, there's no sour grapes. I actually bet a few dollars in the winner of this race. It's a big price. It's not a sour grape situation. Yeah, if you ride more aggressively out of the gate, it doesn't mean that you're going to be riding aggressively for 3/4 of a mile. It means you're going to establish how the race flow is and put yourself in the best position you can be in. And it also spreads the fields out. If everybody's grabbing out of the gate, you get this situation where the whole field sort of comes together top of the stretch, and trips become of paramount importance here. And Normandy's a horse who never gets a fair chance to run.
Looked like there was a seam there for a split second. It closes up, and Normandy's stuck in behind a triangle of horses in here, and really nothing Julien Leparoux can do at this point except just wait for a little bit of clearance and finish up here. But by this point, the race is over. I mean, Buckingham Bull established some soft early fractions, got to the lead, and just went on from there.
Yeah, and the horses that were making moves had the clear run on the outside, and you can see that Julien basically never rode Normandy, and it's not that, it's just, you don't have to be super aggressive just in an all-out send the whole race, but you have to be aggressive enough out of the gate so that if the race doesn't establish in a sort of fair flow in front of you, you can at least put yourself in a position where you're not going to be victimized. And I feel like not just 1 or 2 riders are letting themselves be victimized. 90 or more % of the riders are letting themselves be victimized, and thus are becoming victims. And what's happening is we're not getting true and fairly run races here. We're getting horses that are winning because their riders are adept enough to go to the front, they're backing the pace down, and everybody else is at a major disadvantage, and they're there because they put themselves there.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just Julien and the 8 Normandy there. I mean, I think Normandy was the most extreme case in the race, but really, the whole way the race was ridden just about by everybody in there leads to the kind of result that turned out.
Well, I agree. Charming Becky, the other speed, the horse we saw go to lead early, just taking back after that, and that horse finished 7th. I'm not saying the horse would have done any better, but the whole flow of the race changed because it was unaggressive riding. I mean, to go 24-3, 50 to the half in this race is a little bit ridiculous.
Polar opposites for the second race. We'll take a look at the 7th race from the 13th. The New York bred non-winners of 1 allowance optional claimer for fillies and mares going 7 furlongs. Leaping Lady, part of a heavy pace in here.
Yeah, Leaping Lady is a horse to sort of ride. It doesn't break as sharply as the 10 horse, the other speed. But right after that, Leaping Lady shows a lot of speed and goes there to the front. And we'll circle Leaping Lady on the inside. There you go, right there. You'll be able to see her, obviously, the whole way. And she gets hounded by the favorite, Read the Research. Now, Read the Research ends up finishing 8th. She finishes 6 lengths behind Leaping Lady in this race. Leaping Lady at 7 furlongs, which may be stretching it for her to begin with. I think she holds on very admirably in a race that completely collapsed. Keep in mind, the horse who finishes 3rd in this race, a long shot, is 10th at this point. Tapitude, the gray, is back in 7th between horses. That horse finishes 2nd. I don't know, the surprising winner came from 4th here with a very good trip and improved even on a dry track. But Leaping Lady is a horse that really holds in well, and she's been unlucky in some starts. She's going to get a fair trip in races, and she's going to start winning races. She's a much better horse than she looks on paper.
I agree 100%. I mean, this pace was just unsurvivable for both the front runners in here, and the Leaping Lady does get the better of Read the Research on the front end here. But just the way the race is developing here and the flow of the race, I mean, it sets up well for the 7 Haldane, who really tripped out nicely beneath Cornelio Velasquez here at 20-1 odds. I mean, this is probably a horse that's improved a little bit and that I had under underrated a little bit going into the race, but next time out, you got to take it with a grain of salt that she did sit behind, a pretty good pace in here, and that's part of the reason for a sharp victory.
Yeah, she was impossible to like on paper, to be perfectly honest, to be logically. Leaping Lady also, I think she's down on the inside, pinned down inside in the duel. You saw her turning her head a little bit in the turn. She may not have been the most comfortable on the inside. She had in one of her previous dirt races an inside dead rail trip, actually, was never comfortable down in there. And I look forward to Leaping Lady. I'm not saying she has to get loose and crawl in the front end. If she gets in a position where she's outside another speed and she can maybe stalk, or she's in a position where she's not getting hounded the whole way, I don't think she's just going to win a next race. I think she's going to start winning races and she's going to move herself up the ladder. She's okay in my book.
All right, we'll move on to our third race. We'll go to the first from September 15th. It's a maiden special weight for 2-year-olds, a mile and 16th on the turf. The 5 Yannick has a lot of trouble in here. The winner, Kinsey and Monarch, is a horse that we're pretty high on.
Yeah, I mean, we used to occasionally show winners because, you sometimes think horses that win races, and here they are. Here is on the outside is Kinsey and Monarch, the eventual winner. The 5 Yannick was a first-time starter. I think it's really worth following because, as you'll see, as they break before they hit the backstretch, turn to the backstretch, Yannick is going to steady out badly inside, actually, of Kinsey and Monarch, and you'll see it. Both of them had a little bit of trouble to start, nothing that major, but here they are right here. Keep your eye on Yannick on the inside, so that horse will steady out badly, and we'll show the head-on later to show you sort of what happens there. Yannick's way out of picture, pulled up out of the rider. Kinsey and Monarch steadies a little bit there. This was also a race, Eric, that did not really collapse, yet Kinsey and Monarch makes this huge move from the back of the pack and buries the field.
It was an impressive effort by Kinsey and Monarch, who was making a third start of his career. He debuted on the turf going 7 furlongs. He was reined off, I think, in his second start. Now getting back going a little bit longer on the turf, this is probably something that helped him along, too. He might want a little bit more distance. He got the mile on the 16th this afternoon and really put things together nicely.
The Pilgrim, I think, is 22 days from this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him wheel this horse back. I think he deserves a chance in a stake race against the 2-year-old colts. I think he deserves a chance to see if he belongs to ship out to California to race like the Breeders' Cup. You don't get many chances with these horses, and that's a good time to take a shot. I think there's a level playing field with the Euros to come over, as we've seen so far in those races. And Kinsey and Monarch, I'm not saying he's a superstar, but I think he may be okay.
Indeed, and Kinsey and Monarch will start to make the rally pretty soon to get into the picture. A horse that seems to be moving pretty well at this juncture, and we'll see Kinsey and Monarch there.
Yeah, you see him right there. I just want to wait. There's Yannick down on the inside making that move. There's Kinsey and Monarch. This race also, Eric, was well sort of good look at the horses that just didn't show up. Brickyard Kitten didn't show up. Secretive didn't run particularly well. Asunder proved not to go long, but not the case for Kinsey and Monarch. And Yannick's back here made a little bit of a run.
Yeah, it's a good race for Yannick, a horse that was 22-1 first time out for Barclay Tag, and got to think will improve second time out with a little bit of trouble, a little bit of experience in here. But look at Kinsey and Monarch just striding out nicely here, going to win this race by about 5 lengths under the wire, and just a horse that I think we thought going into the race that this was a nice field of horses. And we'll take a look at the head-on now as they make the bend onto the backstretch. Yannick down toward the inside, and you'll see exactly what goes on here.
Yeah, Yannick just gets jammed up inside. And you can see sort of has to pull out badly from that hole, and Jose Lozcano has no choice but to steady out, and it was pretty severe. Getting back to that, Yannick feels like a horse that will run much better second time out. As you said, Barclay Tag, probably a horse that needed a race, but Kinsey and Monarch, I have high hopes for him.
Okay, we'll move on to the fourth race of our segment this afternoon, and today or this morning, whatever time of the day it is. It's the fifth race from September 15th, the 2-year-old maiden special weight, 6 furlongs in the dirt. Nevada, a heavy favorite in here, disappointed. The 10 Normandy Invasion, a firster for Chad Brown. Breaks a little slowly, makes a big rush up into contention.
Yeah, we're going to show you the head on afterwards. There's the 10-horse Normandy Invasion. Now, Nevada's down the inside, and sometimes we like to talk about these races, like what was there a legitimate reason why a heavy favorite didn't run well, or was it just a disappointing effort? And I think maybe it's a bit of a combination of both. Nevada had run a good second in a 5-horse field at Saratoga to another Todd Pletcher horse last time overanalyzed. There he is down on the inside. Here you see very quickly Normandy Invasion, where Ramon Dominguez has got himself back in the race. And I thought Normandy Invasion is the one you want the most, because he had the trouble, as you'll see. He hits the gate coming out of the start, and he rushed up into contention before tiring. Nevada seems to me like a horse that just was miserable running inside of horses. He never found any stride taking kickback and being on the inside.
It's a good possibility there with Nevada. I think you could be right there. I think there's a chance he might want a little bit more distance too. Or the pace was fairly legit in here. Maybe he just needs a supersonic pace if he's going to go 6 furlongs. I would expect a 7 furlong mile race draw outside. I think you have to give him a stronger look.
Yeah, there he is on the inside. And you'll see John Velasquez, once he wheels him out towards the end, he'll really come running. There's Normandy Invasion. Now he'll tire. He broke slowly. He rushed up to engage. He made an early move. He was wide. I think it's arguable that he ran well despite the fact that he just had nothing towards the end. He's a horse that probably needed this race. Here's Nevada, and he's running. The problem with what you're saying, and I don't totally disagree with, in fact, I pretty much do agree with you in certain ways there. What you're really saying is what Nevada needs is an absolute perfect situation to be successful. When you're talking
what
about
I'm saying is he's not that good.
Yeah, when you're talking about horses that are going to be short prices, it's like he can do really well if he gets ideal circumstances. Well, that's really wonderful. Here's Normandy Invasion. Just watch this horse sort of breaks out and will bangs into the rail there a little bit, and then it hinders him early and probably maybe shook him up a little bit. He'll be okay second time. I do think Nevada had the excuse of not like running inside, but I think you need to keep it in mind next time he runs, because if he draws towards the inside, you might think, geez, he gets buried down in there again, he won't be happy, but maybe he'll benefit from the experience and he'll move forward from that. We'll see. Otherwise, if you get an outside post, he'll probably run better, but that makes him a little dicey.
I don't know. And plus, considering his connections too, and his 2 races, he was finishing up well there. He was second first time out. He's going to be a horse that's going to be bet next time. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that unless you feel that he's in a very, very soft spot for him, that he's a horse that if you have another opinion, you bet against. I'd like to see him and Normandy Invasion hook up in the same race and sort of have sort of fair posts each one of them. I take Normandy Invasion.
All right, we'll go on to our last race now, a special weight for 2-year-old fillies going a mile and 16th on the turf. This is the 5th race from September 16th. A bunch of horses we're going to look at in here that kind of have a little bit of trouble leaving the gate here.
Yeah, and this is just the grabathon. I mean, there's sprinters stretching out like the 2. Now, one of the speeds was the 3. That horse, with Alan Garcia, not surprisingly, gets left. Here's the 4 outside of him. The 5 is in there. The 7's in Burgundy out there. You're going to see them all. That's the 7 sort of, you see the rider sort of standing up. He's back in last. The 4 and 5 are 2 Chad Brown horses. Now, once High and Far gets left, he has no chance. The 4 is going to be steadying with Jose Lozcano. He stays back to last, stays out. In fact, the 3, 4, 5, and 7 are all back in last, while this grabathon is going up front. What kind of chance could these horses have, Eric?
Very little chance with Mariel and Kathy going out to the front end to establish the lead in here in a pretty soft pace, 25 flat, 51 and 1. The quarter and a half for the early fractions from mile and 16th on the Widener turf, and that's just plain and simple slow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rock hard course. We're on the Widener, we're not on the inner, and it's like everybody's in a full out grab. I mean, give Javier Castellano some credit here, and even Rosie Napravnik ends up finishing last with Putney. At least they're putting themselves in the game. So if they had horse, they have a chance. Here's the 3. He's buried. Forget about him. Okay, outside of him is the 7. I think the 5 is the 5 even in the picture at this point? I don't even know if he's in the picture. You can roll it from there. The 7 will get in a little trouble top of the stretch. The 5 is behind them. They all just get taken back so badly. I don't understand why people don't ride a little bit out of the gate to get themselves positioned. It keeps the fields from being bunched, and it keeps them from being these absolute crawl fests. The 5, Corporate Culture, runs 3rd, ran super in here.
Yeah, Corporate Culture does run good, and Corporate Culture, in the Clarovich silks toward the back, not on the screen right now. In fact, the whole crew's in the back there, and the 7's just peeking up 3 or 4 wide there.
Here's the 5.
And there's the 5, Corporate Culture going around
Gustavia.
the 7. Gustavia is stuck in behind a wall of horses, and 3 down to the inside.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the race was just over. This race was over like 10 yards out of the gate, because clearly the 5 ran the best race. Now he's a first-time starter. Maybe he's a little sluggish, whatever. Gustavia had a start under his belt. It's just this sort of commitment from the start with some of these horses. I'm going to be a closer, so therefore I'm going to take back at the start. Just because you show a little aggression early doesn't mean that you can't be closing at the end. You show a little aggression to establish position and also help establish a race flow, and I think that's what's lacking in a lot of these turf races, any kind of natural race flow.
It's frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating from a player because we can get up here and preach about it as much as we want, but I don't think we're going to change things.
No, it's not going to change things, but it does make it hard to handicap the races. But you do, when you handicap in the future, find these kind of races like the one we showed earlier today and this one, and realize that these results came because of how the races were run. And we're not trying to knock the winner, who's okay, but who knows what would have happened. Hey, maybe the winner would have gone a little faster and still been able to beat these horses. But you do have to take that into account, and we'd like to take your thoughts into account. Trips and Traps at NYRAInc.com.
Thanks for watching.